All right, we got the sweat going up on a Tuesday. The A-Team is in the house, and on your screen, TV's Jessie Coffield to my left, YouTube's Emerson Lotzia to her right. On this hour-long menu this morning, baseball bets, Ryder Cup bets, NFL bets galore, but first we will see what's cooking on the DFS side of the pigskin.
Yeah, you guys know the drill. Another week, another milli maker. DraftKings is looking to crown a new millionaire in week 3. So for a $20 entry fee, you can take part in the NFL 4.5 million fantasy football millionaire contest. Of course, that comes with the top prize of $1 million, but also a seat in our Tournament of Champions contest in January that, guess what, will offer another shot at $1 million. Wow. Check out the contest in the DK lobby, okay? And today, we are rich in analysts.
Yes.
DraftKings contributors Pierce Dietrich, Kenny Ducey, and Jeff Ulrich.
All right, week 3 NFL salaries. We are price checking. What are some of your favorite plays at the following position, starting at quarterback? Jeff, whose price do you like?
Oh no, Jeff, you're muted.
Oh God, no. Hot start. Is he muted? Do we have him muted? I'm panicking. I'm freaking out.
Try again, Jeff.
Jeff.
No.
Oh God, Kenny, go. I can't hear you.
We can't hear you, Jeff.
Kenny.
Oh no.
Oh dude,
oh my God.
this is.
We lost Kenny.
Am I here?
Yeah.
You guys hear me?
Wait, I hear Pierce. I hear Pierce.
Go ahead.
Oh,
Pierce.
they must have just unmuted it for Pierce. That's so
Oh,
nice.
Kenny, we can
Kenny.
hear you.
All right.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay, here we go. Hold on.
All
One
right,
second.
Jeff gets
we
to
are
start.
going to. We're going to start over.
Rewind.
All right, here we go. In 3, 2, 1. Jeff, whose price do you like at quarterback this week?
Oh, thank you for asking, Emerson. And by the way, you both look fantastic this morning. My pick at quarterback is predicated on the health of Andy Dalton. It's Justin Fields at 5,200. Look, 10 rush attempts last week. Everybody's all in a panic. Oh my God, he looked terrible for like 5 plays against the Bengals where they were trying to close out that game. It doesn't matter, okay? This is Justin Fields. He's going to be an upgrade over Andy Dalton. They're plus 7.5 point underdogs. It's going to be a good game script. He's going to be scoring points. Cleveland isn't that good a pass defense. Justin Fields at 5,200, if he starts, is a fantastic play for week 3.
How dare the Bears overlook St. Nick, Jeff? Kenny, whose quarterback do you like? Whose price?
Yeah, what does Kirk Cousins have to do around here to get a little more respect? He's $6,300. He's sitting here ripe for the pluck. And when you look at his season so far, back-to-back 25 DK fantasy point games, he's going against the vaunted Seattle secondary, the best secondary. No, this is a terrible, terrible pass defense. They got Blitz Boy coming around the corner, blowing all his assignments. They give up 271 yards a game through the air over the first 2 games. Kirk Cousins playing at home where he threw for 284 yards per game, a 111 passer rating last year, loves to play in Minnesota. He's going to love playing this Seattle secondary, which is giving up just absolute rockets through the air. And not Patrick Mahomes, his name was first on my list here, but Ryan Tannehill last week had a fantastic game going for 347 yards. Obviously had a few more pass attempts in that game because of overtime. But still, this is a secondary that will get shredded. It was terrible last year. It's still terrible this year after losing Shaq Griffin. I really like Kirk Cousins in this spot. I think he goes for over 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, hits the bonus, great value.
Pierce, who are you looking to roster at quarterback?
Let's continue the trend of going cheap at quarterback and borderline too cute. Daniel Jones. Look at the matchup. Atlanta's allowed 540 yards passing in the first 2 games, 8 touchdown passes. Jones has looked pretty good, and he's faced 2 tough teams in Washington and Denver. Those are top-notch defenses that he's gone against and thrown for 250 yards in both games, a passing touchdown in both games. But the real appeal is what he's doing on the ground. He had 25 yards rushing in his first game and then 9 rushes for 95 yards against Washington. People are going to say, well, he can't do that. That's an outlier performance. He had a 55-yard touchdown called back. He looked really good in the RPO. Sure, at some point, teams are going to figure that out and be able to stop him on the ground, but it's not going to be Atlanta. Atlanta's terrible. Daniel Jones is a steal this week.
Yeah, he's got the 4th most fantasy points among quarterbacks through 2 weeks.
Ooh, a lot of usage there. What about at running back, Kenny?
At running back, I really am a big fan of taking Chris Carson in this same game at $6,400. When you look at Minnesota, they were 30th in rush DVOA this year. They've allowed they ranked 25th in DKFP. 2 running backs this year. When you look at that defense, it is really banged up. Eric Kendricks was hurt last week. Anthony Barr and Everson Griffin might not play again. I think that this is a very good spot considering the Rashad Penny injury for Seattle. Chris Carson should be the bell cow back. And coming off of a week last week where he played incredibly well, and I think this is also a game where we do get potentially a run-heavy approach from Seattle if they take the lead from Minnesota after halftime. I think that Chris Carson is easily in store for 15 or more for DraftKings fantasy points. And I think at $6,400, it's just a little bit too cheap. You're not getting that injury to Penny priced in here.
Yeah, rushed 13 times for 31 yards and 2 touchdowns last time out. Pierce, where are you going at running back?
Nick Chubb, 7,600. The Browns might be without Landry and Odell Beckham. That means they're going to have to lean on the run. Chubb's looked great, 176 yards on 26 carries. He's been incredibly efficient, and he should get at least 15 carries in this matchup, and that's probably all you're going to need. The Bears have been pretty solid against the run so far, but with Chubb, it's not really a defense that you're going to have to fear. If we can just get 15 carries, give Chubb the ball. This should be a close game where he should get plenty of action. He might be underpriced here.
All right, Jeff, what do we think? Who do you want to roster at running back?
Yeah, I don't mind both those calls by the guys. I think we're all in the same vein here. Pay down a quarterback, pay up a running back. I like going to Austin Eckler, though, more than Chubb at 7,200 right now. Again, you look at this game script. Eckler is getting relieved by Roundtree and Justin Jackson a bit, but those guys aren't taking significant carries. They're just there to give Austin Eckler a break. 9 targets in week 2. He had over 15 carries in week 1, so he is their lead back. And again, it doesn't matter what the game script is here for Eckler. I mean, if the Chargers are behind, that's even better because he's just going to get more targets. I love Austin Eckler in this game script. It's fast-paced. And, oh, by the way, the Chiefs have allowed 6.0 yards per carry against the worst mark in the league. This is a fantastic matchup for him.
Yeah, he did outcarry Justin Jackson and Larry Roundtree by a combined 9-5 margin. So pretty good.
Love it. Pierce, price check for us at wide receiver, please.
Sterling Shepard at 5,900. If I like Daniel Jones, I like Shepard with him. 113 yards and a touchdown, 7 receptions in his last game. He had 90 yards receiving in the first game. Again, those are tough matchups. He's running almost perfect routes. He's locked in with Daniel Jones. And he's got a great matchup this week against Atlanta, who has been absolutely torched by wide receivers.
All right. How about you, Kenny?
Yeah, let's stick with this theme of injuries. Juju Smith-Schuster at $6,000 is expensive, but he should be getting a monster target share here when you consider the injury to Deontay Johnson that was suffered at the end of that loss to Las Vegas on the last play. It was a freak thing. Look, Juju already has 15 targets through 2 games. And when you look at Deontay Johnson, he was garnering 22 targets over the first 2 games. So if he misses this game, there's going to be a ton of the ball to go around here. And Juju is a guy that is really depended on by the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's sort of the elder statesman of that receiving core. Again, he's been very involved in this offense for the last 2 years, although he hasn't had that explosive, big game ability, really. He's just been very consistent, very sound. And I think with a matchup with the Bengals, they're allowing over 70% of passes to be completed. You look at this defense, it is banged up. Trey Waynes missed the game in week 2, could miss week 3. And if Trey Waynes is out, that's going to be a massive, massive edge for the Pittsburgh Steelers throwing the football. And we know that they love to throw. I think Juju could see 10 or more targets here, get himself 100 yards, and have a very big game. And I think he is worth paying up for. I think this price also may keep people away in GPPs. I think it could be a sneaky pivot play.
Jeff, which wide receiver is priced just right?
Well, we all know who the fantasy darling at wide receiver is right now, right? I mean, it's the guy who's just smoked the slate 2 weeks in a row. It's Cooper Kupp. Everyone loves Cooper Kupp. Well, guess what? You know what's happening. You know what's about to happen. The rug pull is coming. Robert Woods at 5,700 is my favorite play at wide receiver. Look, he had the same amount of targets as Kupp last week. It's just the big plays went to Kupp. I get it. It's a nice connection with Stafford and Kupp. I'm not saying you don't have to play Cooper Kupp for the rest of the year, but at some point, Robert Woods is going to break out. Matthew Stafford's playing really well, and you look at the matchup this week. Tampa Bay already second last in terms of fantasy points allowed to the wide receivers. Teams just throw so much against Tampa. They're averaging opponents against Tampa over 50 pass attempts per game. I expect a pass-heavy game plan from the Rams here regardless because Darrell Henderson's banged up. I absolutely love the Robert Woods pivot in this spot. I love Matthew Stafford as a play too, so you can pair those two, but I think Woods is going to be the low-owned GPP play that breaks through this week.
All right, Jeff, take us to tight end. Who's your dude? In a surprise to absolutely no one, Travis Kelce is by far the most expensive tight end on this slate.
Yeah, and look, I mean, maybe I'll leave Kelce for one of the other guys. I think there's a couple obvious plays, and I'm going to talk about the other one. That's wide receiver 1, TJ Hawkinson. 20 targets through 2 games. Really good matchup, in my opinion, against Baltimore, who isn't so good covering against the middle of the field against tight ends. They just allow a lot of receptions to that area. And look, maybe Baltimore breaks this Jared Goff facade that's going on and they get a ton of pressure, but at the same time, you're probably going to get some late passing from Jared Goff, similar to what we saw in the Packers game last week. 5,200, I think you're going to see TJ Hawkinson up with Kelce and Waller in the top 3 tight ends for fantasy by the time the season's done. 5,200 right now, way too cheap for this guy.
All right, Kenny, who do you like at tight end?
Yeah, how about a guy that was a really popular pick all year last year? Now he's only $4,800, and he's had a great start to the season. It's Noah Fant, 13 DraftKings fantasy points per game so far. He's got 14 total targets. I know it's not the 20 that TJ Hawkinson has garnered, but this is a passing offense that's looked really, really formidable for the Denver Broncos. When you look at a matchup with the Jets, they are historically terrible against tight ends. This team has never been able to cover tight ends dating back to the Rob Gronkowski Patriots days. They still just, again, they have a great front 4, but they have not really found a way to, guard over the middle of the field. They have some issues there. I think Noah Fant should get plenty of targets, and also 4 red zone targets already. That is 13th in the National Football League. So Noah Fant should get some love in the red zone here. He's already got a touchdown on the board against Jacksonville. I think with a soft matchup against a terrible, terrible Jets secondary, Fant should eat.
Cover your ears, Fireman Ed. When you talking bad about the Jets.
Hey, we're out on Fireman Ed. It's all about Jetman now. Fireman Ed's a fraud.
All right, Pierce, what do we think at tight end?
Let's go back to Kyle Pitts at 4,900. Took a step forward last week, 5 catches for 73 yards. We're going to continue to see him develop and progress. And, hey, the other team in New York can't guard tight ends either. The Giants have allowed the 3rd most points to tight ends, 16 catches for 149 yards and 2 touchdowns. And, if you're going to stack Jones and Shepard, he is a great run back option.
All right, guys, that's it. We will take a trip later. We're going to take a trip around the diamond and cover the DK Sportsbook bases right after the legendary Johnny Avello joins the Unreasonable Odds pod talking NFL.
Nice.
Look ahead here at week 3, beyond the Thursday night game into the weekend. What games have you seen that have taken the most money so far on the week 3 board, and which games do you expect the number to move the most between now and Sunday?
Well, there have been a few games that have moved against teams because of the quarterback status. So the Titans, 3.5 to 5.5 over the Colts. That's a Wentz questionable. And the Raiders, 1.5 to 4 over the Dolphins. And that's an uncertain to a T. But the one move where the bettors really approve of the team losing their quarterback is the Bears at the Browns. Dalton is out. Justin Fields is in. The line has plummeted from the Browns -9 to -7.5. So interesting how 2 quarterbacks are out, another's out, but the line is dropped. I think another game where you'll see a switch in favorites is the Seahawks at the Vikings. We opened the Seahawks at 2.5 road favorite. It's now down to 1.5, and I wouldn't be surprised to see the game flip.
Wow. So even with an 0-2 Vikings team there, just being at home against Seattle, coming off the OT loss, that's Minnesota's going to take some money there, you think?
Pretty good 0-2, though, right? I mean,
a very good 0-2.
Yeah. So, I think what the bettors will say, they'll see that 0-2. They'll see the Seahawks kind of struggle on the road at times, through the last couple of years. And maybe that's where the players will say, okay, it's time for the Vikings to get a win.
Welcome back to The Sweat. I'm Jessie, he's Emerson, and we are loving that you're loving this show.
Yes, and I love our baseball panel. Question mark. DraftKings contributor Matt Musselman, Nick Fryer, and Gary and Thorne. We are covering DOS bases. This is when you share with us your favorite plays in the following categories for tonight's MLB main slate. First base, which favorite are you backing this evening, Garion?
I'll go with the Red Sox. They are minus 145 on the money line against the Mets. Red Sox, obviously, one of the hotter teams in baseball right now. They're 5-0 in their last 5 games. They've also just been really good at winning games at Fenway Park. They are 35-16 their last 51 home games. So just in general, the Red Sox are in a pretty nice spot. The Mets have been spiraling the last couple of weeks after that big series win against the New York Yankees. The Mets also, crucially in this particular matchup, have not hit left-handed pitching well all season long. They have the 6th lowest OPS in baseball against southpaws. Eduardo Rodriguez has been up and down all season long, but all of the advanced metrics suggest that he's been much better than his ERA would indicate. So I'll roll with Erod. I'll roll with the Red Sox on the money line.
Okay, Nick, who you rolling with?
I'm rolling with the Red Sox as well, and Gary highlighted how the Mets have not been good against left-handed pitching, and that issue's carried into this month as well, as much as they've been a little bit better against lefties this month. But like you said, Erod has been better in the second half. As much as you look at his season-long numbers and think they're gross, he's largely performed better since the All-Star break. And the big thing for me too, as much as Stroman has done well, all season, and I seem to getting better in the second half. The Red Sox hit right-handed pitching well. And then the Mets, when you look at how they've done in Stroman starts, I couldn't believe this number when I saw it. They're 15-16 in Stroman starts. This guy's been pitching so well all season, sub-3 ERA and everything. They still can't win ball games behind him, so I have no reason to think they do differently tonight with the Red Sox playing as well as they have.
Matt, which favorite are you backing tonight?
I don't mind Boston either, and now I'm starting to get a little worried that this is too good to be true. I'm going to go with a different spot, though, that I like a little bit better with the White Sox in the afternoon in Detroit against the Tigers. This has actually been a phenomenon all year, regardless of who's pitching for the Tigers, where even when they're underdogs, they seem to get a lot of the betting attention. I don't really know what that is. Like, there was a while where the Tigers had a win streak going that was probably back in July, but even now, they tend to be one of the more popular teams as underdogs. Dallas Keuchel has not been good recently. I don't think he's a great pitcher, but I do think that he's probably run into some bad luck. He's reliant on balls getting hit at people because he doesn't strike anyone out, and I think he's just had a bad stretch where a lot of balls are finding their way through the gaps, and he hasn't been able to get the outs he normally gets. So I think he probably turns it around a little bit, but this is more about Tyler Alexander versus the White Sox offense. This is a really good matchup for them. So assuming the lineup comes out and we have the regulars in there, I think the White Sox are in a good spot.
All right, Nick, second base, which underdog are you backing tonight?
You know, at first, Jesse, I saw the Mariners going up against the A's, and then I was like, I don't want to back Steve's team. We've been hearing way too much about the Mariners all season from him. So then I looked a little bit further, and I saw on the West Coast, the Giants are technically underdogs on the money line tonight going up against the Padres. I know the Padres have not named their starter for tonight, whether they're going to do a bullpen start or whatever. But still, you got Kevin Gausman going against a Padres team that has won 2 of their last 10 games at a crucial point in the season for them. So I know Gausman has not been the same guy he was, before the All-Star break and everything, but this is not a sticky stuff guy. He is going to figure his whole deal out. And then the Padres bullpen, too, behind him has been rock solid. And I know he also just saw the Padres and didn't do well, but I like having a good starter going up against a bad team, or a struggling team, I guess we'll say in this case. They're not a bad team, but then to turn things around against that team. And then, like I said, Giants bullpen has been good. And I know the Padres has been the entire season, but they're kind of going in the wrong direction right now when you look at their bullpen too. So, and the Giants still have something to play for. They want to avoid that wild card game. So I'm going Giants as my favorite underdog.
All right, Matt, which underdog are you backing tonight?
So I know Shohei Ohtani has been struggling quite a bit at the plate lately. Only 1 home run in something like the last 2 weeks, but I think the Angels are in a really good spot against the Astros. Jose Urquidy is on the mound for Houston. I think he's clearly the worst starter in their rotation. They do have a really good, or at least a deep rotation, so it's not that he's a terrible pitcher or anything, but he's probably about league average. Packy Naughton on the other side for the Angels, a little below average, I would say. But they're just getting a lot of odds at home. This line actually has been trending down already, and it's not because people are betting the Angels. I think what's going on here is that Houston has been giving a lot of their main players days off. here and there because they basically have the division locked up at this point. So Jose Altuve had a rest day last night. I think we could see Correa, Bregman, Alvarez, Tucker, one or more of those guys get the night off, tonight. And I think this will be something that continues for the Astros throughout the rest of September, where they just don't need to push their starters to play every day because they basically have the AL West clinched already, or at least they're in really good position there. So I think the Angels should be smaller underdogs than they are. Worth keeping an eye on Ohtani. He needs to be in the lineup for this to be a good bet because he's been struggling, and we're getting later in the season. The Angels have nothing to play for, so maybe he gets a rest day too, and at that point, I don't really like this anymore. So it could be worth waiting to see if Ohtani plays, but I think this is just too long of odds for the Angels against an Astros team that's probably overvalued.
All right, Gary, and which dog are you rolling with?
Yeah, I'm in complete lockstep with Nick through these first two picks. I will also hop on the Giants. To me, this really just comes down to maybe even the perception and the odds makers' perception of how Kevin Gausman has been pitching, because on the surface, it hasn't been good in September. He's got a 4.70 ERA across 23 innings in the month. However, in those same 4 starts, his xFIP is a flat 2 because he's got a 33.3% strikeout rate and a 10.7 strikeout to walk ratio within that span of time. He's actually been pitching exceedingly well, maybe some of the best baseball he's pitched so far in 2021. It's just that his BABIP and strand rates have been terrible so far in the month. So I think Gausman gets back on track against the Padres team that across the last 14 days has the lowest isolated power and lowest WRC plus in all of baseball. Like Nick said, the Giants still have something to play for, and while the Padres technically do too, it just seems like they're unraveling at the seams. So I'll take the Giants.
Matt, we're taking a trip to the hot corner here. We're on third base. Give me your favorite run line bet.
So it's still the Angels. I mean, I like the money line. The run line is just derived from the money line there. So if I had to give the honest pick, it's just going with the Angels again. I think that the other one I would lean towards, though, is the Diamondbacks to cover plus 1.5 against the Braves. And I like this from a money line perspective too, but even on the run line, I think it's fine. The Braves are likely going with the bullpen game with Jesse Chavez starting. We don't have full confirmation there. Luke Weaver for the Diamondbacks, I think, is not great, but the Braves are just a little bit of an overrated team who is in first in their division, largely because the other teams in the division have just struggled so much this year. I don't think the Braves are that great without Ronald Acuna, who's been out for a few months now. And the Diamondbacks do have some good hitters. They were not healthy for a while. Ketel Marte's back. Dalton Varsho has been playing really well for them. Josh Rojas has been fine. They have, I think, a decent offense. It's their pitching that really is the reason why this isn't a good team. But I think that there are enough good hitters there, home field advantage, that plus 1.5, even at minus 130, I kind of like it. And I like the money line for them too.
Okay, Nick, how about you, dude?
I'm going with the Reds run line against Pittsburgh. I don't know if Garian's going the same way. We'll find out in a second. But this one's all about the pitching in this one for me tonight. You got Tyler Mahle versus Mitch Keller. And Mitch Keller's a guy who I think we've all liked to pick on a little bit throughout the course of the season. Although he's done well this month, he hasn't given up a home run in any of his 3 September starts. And I feel like he's got to be due at some point, and he's going up against a team that he just saw recently. And I know that Tyler Mahle also just saw the Pirates recently as well. But again, this is a guy who's seen this team quite a few times this year, and he's done well pretty much every time out. So I'm not really worried about that. And then when you look at the bullpens too, the Reds have the clear advantage in this one. They have the best FIP in all of baseball this month as a bullpen, and one of the best whips as well. So I'm going to go with them run line tonight against Pittsburgh.
Gary, hook us up with your favorite run line bet.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Rockies plus 1.5 at home against the Dodgers. The Rockies are just one of the best home teams in baseball, so we're going to get plus money on the run line, even in what I guess would be perceived as a lopsided pitching matchup. You've got Julio Urias going up against Antonio Senzatella, and I think Senzatella just doesn't get enough respect. This is someone who for the season has a 3.65 FIP. He's pitched exceedingly well in Colorado, and he's allowed 2 earned runs or fewer in 5 of his past 6 starts. So I really don't think he's that big a detriment. And again, the Rockies tend to just not even cover games at home, win games at home. They are 35-17 in their last 52 home games this season. Obviously, the Dodgers are a very daunting opponent, and the Dodgers have something to play for, but I think this is a pretty nice bet at plus 110.
All right, Gary, how about your favorite game total to take us home?
So I'm going to go back to that Boston-New York game, and I like the under 9.5. We already talked about fading this Mets offense against a left-handed starter in Eduardo Rodriguez. And Nick also mentioned how well Marcus Stroman has been pitching as of late. In fact, his last 5 starts, he has a 2.07 FIP because he's striking out about a batter per inning, which for Marcus Stroman is elite territory. And he's also yet to allow a home run in any of those 5 starts. So he's just pitching exactly how you would kind of pencil in the 90th, 100th percentile version of Marcus Stroman right now. So I think this game stays under 9.5.
All right, where are we going, Nick? Favorite game total?
If we're talking game total combined between the two teams, then I'm with Gary on this one. But my absolute favorite, I'm going to go with the team total here, and it's going to be the Cubs scoring over 3.5 runs against the Twins tonight. They're going up against Griffin Jacks, and as much as we like to pick on the Cubs because, AAA lineup, blah, 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 all that stuff, well, they've been crushing right-handed pitching this month. Top 5 in OPS, ISO, WOBA against right-handed pitching this month, and they're 6th in WRC+. And then when you look at Griffin Jacks, what he's done, no team has scored sub-4 runs in a Griffin Jacks start since August 10th. He's given up a home run in each of his last 8 starts, in multiple home runs in 3 of those outings. He just gave up 3 runs over 4 2/3 innings to Cleveland, and Cleveland ended up scoring like 12 runs in that game too. He alone has given up before last start 4, 4, 6, and 9 earned runs. And then when you look at the Twins bullpen too, we'll just put it not great.
All right, take us home, Matt.
So I wasn't expecting to have to do this, but I'm actually on the opposite side of what Nick has for Cubs and Twins. And it's not because anything that he said is wrong. I actually agree with all of that. But we do have a unique weather situation at Wrigley tonight. Wrigley's normally, it gets attention when the wind is blowing out and it's a boost to offense. We actually have the opposite effect tonight where we're looking at 15 to 20 miles an hour of wind blowing in, and specifically from left field, which I think is more of a problem for the Cubs than the Twins because their best power hitters are right-handed, Frank Schwindel, Wilson Contreras. So even though I don't think Griffin Jacks is good whatsoever, I think that some of those fly balls might stay in the yard just because the wind, which is especially relevant at Wrigley, just the way the field is designed. So I like the under at 8. It's at even money, which I think is a decent value. And it's really, I'm looking at the game total, not specifically the Cubs, but they're certainly a big part of that. I think the under is a value, and it really comes down to the weather more than anything. In a pitching matchup that I don't think is good, but I just think the wind at that particular ballpark is enough to keep run scoring down.
Gentlemen, baseball panel, we appreciate you. We love you. Thanks for the help. We still will look at some NFL odds on this Week 3 slate coming up. But first, right after this break, we got some Ryder Cup bets to gossip about with our gorgeous golf gurus.
Welcome back to The Sweat. I'm Jessie. He's Emerson. These are our gorgeous golf gurus, Jeff Ulrich and Reed Fowler, who are here to give us their Ryder Cup best bets. Those are your top plays on the DK Sportsbook for the Ryder Cup. All right, so we started looking at some Ryder Cup props on the show yesterday, and by we, I mean Emerson and you guys. One that we didn't get to was the prop for top captain's pick. So
that's a good one.
Yeah, that one has Jordan Spieth at plus 350 for that honor. Do we feel like that's too high or too low, Jeff?
I think Spieth deserves to probably be, the co-favorite in this division. But again, the U.S. team is so deep that I don't really think that this is like my favorite bet or anything. I think it's a little bit too low in terms of just where he is in the odds. So I would say Jordan Spieth has a good chance to go out there. But again, the U.S. team, you've got Schauffele in this division too, and the guy I like to target, Tony Finau as well, who played really, really good towards the end of the season. Double the odds. I mean, I'd much rather take a shot with Finau because I think with all these guys, it's going to come down to, okay, it's a good shot. Finau, who's got a lot of experience, gets out there first. If he plays well and Spieth doesn't, well, Finau's going to get the next match and Spieth won't. So I think these odds are a little bit too short on Spieth, a little bit too low. I'd rather go up higher to a guy like Finau.
Reed, do you agree? A little bit too low here?
Yeah, of course he loves Finau.
I mean, yeah, I can't argue against Jeff when he chooses my boy Finau there. But at the same time, look, Jordan Spieth, in 2014, he played in 4 matches, 2.5 points. 2.5 points in 2016, played all 5 matches. And the same thing in 2016, where he played all 5 matches. So, like, that's what you want from a guy, like, if you want to take this bet. I do think that Finau has a chance to surprise a lot of people with how many matches he's in because his game fits this course so well. I do love that. If you're on the Finau train, you might as well go there. And then on top USA captain's pick as well, at plus 450 to really double down there. But it's hard to go against a guy like Jordan Spieth with what he's able to do and what he's done in this format in his time. And this year, it really, talk about momentum. I would argue throughout the year, Jeff, and it's weird that I'm saying this against my boy Finau. Spieth has had the most momentum outside of the guys who actually won, like Cantlay and some of these guys. Over the long time, over this past year, Spieth has been building up, and this was a goal of his. He was way outside the Ryder Cup qualifying beginning of the season, and he made his way through, so you got to give him props for that.
Let's talk about this prop for top rookie score. Xander Schauffele leading the way there, guys, plus 350 odds. Patrick Cantlay close behind him at plus 400. Who do you like here, Fowler?
Yeah, Xander is my favorite. He took part in 5 matches at the President's Cup. I know he's a rookie, but if you take a look at what Cantlay did, like Cantlay is fine. Like in his President's Cup, he did well. I think he played in 5 matches as well, but his match play record isn't great. Top 17, I think, is his best outing at the WGC. So it's not great in terms of match play, but he just won the FedEx Cup, guys. Like he just won, so momentum is clearly on his side. But Xander, this guy has been amazing. Right, amazing in his career. A guy that doesn't have a major win, but has contended in all 4 majors. Essentially, he's been there, and he's cut from a different cloth. This guy wants to perform. I think he has a better chance, maybe than Finau, of getting in at least 4 matches. And if that's the case, I think he's there as opposed to Patrick Cantlay. You can pair Xander with essentially anybody.
Yeah, Jeff, Xander doesn't feel like a rookie, a big-time performer in majors. Reed just mentioned his experience in the President's Cup, just took home gold in the Olympics a few months ago.
He's not really a rookie. You guys are both dead on. I mean, he played a ton at the President's Cup. I don't really want to oppose him here, but it is interesting. Like, we've got Colin Morikawa here at almost double the odds. So that's an interesting pivot. The guy I actually like pivoting off of, though, is Victor Hovland. I like going over to Europe for this one. I just don't think Europe can rest Victor Hovland. There's too much firepower with Victor Hovland to just sit him on the bench. If Europe wants a real chance here, they have to play him in all 5 matches. And if he comes out firing, he will definitely get in all 5 matches. Look, Whistling Straits, it's a long par 72. You got to be good off the tee. There's really no one better on the European squad, like off the tee and just tee to green, than Victor Hovland. So, again, there are already rumors he's going to be out there with Rory McIlroy day 1. You play with Rory, you've got a lot of respect from the captain. So I actually like going bigger in the odds to Hovland here. But, like, you know, maybe you take both. You take one guy from each side, because I think Xander's got a great shot at playing 5 matches as well. Great international player. But I will say that Hovland is my favorite target here just because of the odds.
Jeff, now they have lines for the individual matchups. So does one of those stick out to you?
Yeah, these are all really interesting. Whoops, I just shut them down. There we go. But again, you know, you look at these. I mean, you've got some really interesting matchups. We've got like Dustin versus Sergio, a couple of veterans. Cantlay versus Hovland. I'm going back to Tony Finau, though, and I'm just going to keep harping on this. I think Finau's in for a big Ryder Cup. You look at the American squad. What is the big squabble? Oh, guys don't want to play. People don't like each other. Everybody likes Tony Finau. He's going to be out there, in my opinion, from the start, and he's playing really, really good golf. And look, the matchup you're getting against Tommy Fleetwood's a likable guy too, but he has not played well in 2021. This guy's been spraying his driver all over the place, can't be consistent tee to green. There's a good chance Tommy Fleetwood gets sat a couple times, and I think there's a very good shot that Finau plays at least 4 matches. So I really like the plus money. You're getting plus 100 on Tony Finau over Fleetwood. I really like that one.
Reed, how do we feel?
Yeah, everybody loves Finau. Just finally getting it. No, he's gotten that for a long time. He's a likable guy. But look, I know I just talked about Xander, and I know I love Xander, and I want to play him as much as possible. But I do think there is value on Rory at -110 over Xander. I mean, Rory's lifetime record in singles matches is like 32-17 or something around like along those lines. He is an amazing singles matches player, and in this format, he just seems to crank it up a notch. Even more so than when he already does. Like, it's been disappointing, quote unquote, for Rory, even with the win this season. But Ryder Cup, this guy wears no hat. That's fine. And he just goes out there and he wins singles matches. So I do like that at -110.
All right, dudes. Overall here, what is your favorite Ryder Cup bet? Reed.
Yeah, I think it's foursome day one US +100 to win the foursomes. Like in the last two out of 4 years, or Ryder Cup editions, the U.S. has beat out the Europeans in that day one foursome. I'm a little bit worried when it comes to singles matches because that's where Europe absolutely dominates. But U.S. get out to an early lead, the home field advantage, Jeff, +100. Like in 2012, U.S. was leading 5-3, 2016, 5.5 to 2.5. Give me that day one U.S. getting out to an early start, and then potentially Europe coming back in that second half of the Ryder Cup.
Jeff, what about you, dude?
Well, I'm sticking with the day one theme, but I'm going Europe. I'm going to go Europe +200 in the four balls. Reed mentioned, the foursomes record for the United States. We'll respect that, but look, Europe is still the better team player here. There's no doubt about it. Europe has always dominated the team matches. They're the better team player. You've got to get on one of these plus money for Europe on day one. I like going to the four balls. You're also getting better odds there at +200. So Europe day one to take one of these foursomes or four balls. I think those are great bets. I like the foursomes at +200 for Europe.
And Reed, Jeff, you two and yours truly will be talking a lot more Ryder Cup on a Wednesday edition of the Slate. So that's Wednesday, 5 o'clock on the DraftKings YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter channels. I'm excited for that.
That's going to be great. In the meantime, we're going to go back to the gridiron. We're going to talk week 3 spreads and totals when the sweat returns. Welcome back to The Sweat. I'm Jessie. He's Emerson. They're DraftKings contributors Reed Fowler, Julian Edlow, and Steve Buchanan. It is time for NFL High or Low. So, you know the drill, guys. Are these Week 3 spreads and totals too high or too low? Let's start with the first one. Titans minus 5.5 over the Colts. What do we think, Reed? Too high or too low?
I think this is too high. I'm not convinced on Tennessee. And look, the Colts, yes, Jacob Eason might be out there. I get it. I can already see Steve on the Zoom panel, eyes wide, just the whites of his eyes. But look, these defenses are not good. I know Jacob Eason is not great, but if Carson Wentz were in, would this number be 3.5 and is Jacob Eason a +2 differential? I don't know. I don't think they depend on him. I think they depend a ton on a guy like Jonathan Taylor. This game could come close. I think the early money is coming in on the Colts when you see -5. But at the same time, I just do not trust Tennessee. I get that Derrick Henry ran for 1,000 yards, but he's not going to do that again. He's not going to have that type of game. Look, the secondary in Indy is terrible. Secondary with the Tennessee Titans is terrible. So with that being said, it could be a high-scoring game and it could go Tennessee's way. But I think this is too high right now.
All right, Reed thinks it's too high. Julian, how do we feel about it?
It's we don't know until we know who the quarterback is the real answer. But we have to act on something. Carson Wentz, given his career history, both ankles are sprained. That sounds like me in high school basketball, the double ankle sprain. So I'm going to say he's not going to play. I like the total's tough with Eason. Titans overs have been absolute barn burners, and week 1 was the bad beat with no points in the last 19 minutes against Arizona. I don't think I would touch the total if it's Eason, but I would touch the -5.5. Tennessee is going to win this game at home by a touchdown or more if Jacob Eason is under center for Indy. So that would be my lean in this game, and if Carson Wentz is in, I don't know what to expect from him either. I would still lean to Tennessee at a smaller number, even if Carson Wentz plays. This is going to be a tough season for the Colts. Off to an 0-2 start. Now you got a huge road divisional game. I don't know if Hard Knocks is going to work out the way they anticipated with, let's track the Colts down the stretch into the playoffs. They might be a non-factor for the playoffs by the time that show rolls around.
All right, Steve, how do we feel about it?
I just think this is too low. And I don't care who's at quarterback at this point. Carson Wentz, what are they going to, wheel him out there? 2 sprained ankles. 2 sprained ankles. Even if one's feeling better, how about the other one? He's on the Colts now, right? And everybody was like, this is going to be great. He's got this great offensive line in front of him. He's not going to be under pressure. He's already been under pressure on almost 45% of his dropbacks. So now I'm starting to think this is not an O-line problem. I'm starting to think this is a Carson Wentz problem because it happened with the Eagles. Now it's happening with the Colts. And then if it's Jacob Eason, the 4th-round pick, he goes out there. The Colts are getting ready for a field goal. He throws a pick on the second pass attempt of the game. That's what you're going to get with Jacob Eason. And Reed said it perfectly. This Titans defense has not been good at all. They've already given up 632 passing yards to opposing quarterbacks. But if it's Jacob Eason under center, that number might move to 633 when all is said and done. 1 passing yard for Jacob Eason all throughout in week 3. I don't feel confident in either quarterback. Doesn't matter who it is. So I think 5.5 is too low right now.
Hey, Jules, how about the Bills here? -8.5 over the Washington football team. Too high or too low of a spread? Looks like -8 now, by the way. -8 on the
Yeah, I really want to get this one at under a touchdown. I would feel Washington has extra time to prepare, coming off a tough win, if you can say that. Their defense was a huge letdown, and yet they beat the Giants in kind of a joke of a game, as we've become accustomed to in the NFC East. That said, would I bet on Washington? No. So I guess that means it's too low to answer the question appropriately. But it's a stay away spot for me. It's the only side I'm interested in betting on is the Bills, and the only number I'm interested in it at is 6.5. And it's not going to get there. So realistically, this just means that the Bills are a very good teaser piece this week at home against a Washington defense that the front 4, the front 7 will get some pressure on Josh Allen, but that secondary we learned that it stinks against Daniel Jones and the Giants. So look for Stephon Diggs to go deep. Look for the Bills to have a pretty good game in the secondary.
Yeah, Steve, Washington 0-2 against the spread to begin the season. Taylor Heineke once again under center.
Yeah, I mean, look, the money's been coming in on Washington. This was at 9.5, I think, as recently as yesterday. So this line is coming down. Oh, look at that great graphic. There you go. I'm not lying. There it is, right in front of you. But
good job,
so
Steve.
this number is obviously coming down. But one thing that that Julian brought up too, like Washington's defense has been a bit of a disappointment. But at least according to Pro Football Focus, they still have one of the top 5 pass rushes in the league. And Josh Allen's been under pressure a lot so far this season. 40% of his dropbacks, he's been scrambling a lot out of the pocket. They've been getting some good pressure on him. And if there's a team that's going to do that efficiently, it's exactly who they're facing this week in Washington. So I'm with Julian. I don't like this number at all. The 8 is really a tough number. It's a well set number. But it's a tough number to really decide who you like in this one. If Josh Allen's going to continue to be under a lot of pressure, this is not the team that you want to have that issue against. So would love to see where this number moves as the week goes on. And we talked about getting some early line value. This is not the time because I think this is going to continue to change as the week goes on. So I think this is just a stay away spot for me. To answer the question though, I do think this is a bit too high at the moment.
Reed, how tough is it for you to see Heineke going toe-to-toe with Josh Allen on the road?
Oh, not tough at all. Heineke for MVP, baby. No, the unreasonable odds panel to capitulators here on the Washington football team at -8.5. Look, I get what these guys are saying, but I'm going to take the points here. Getting 8.5. Josh Allen, and Steve mentioned it. I think it's a really good point there. Buffalo ranks 31st in team, in pass blocking. In team pass blocking in their first 2 weeks. And Josh Allen has been a bottom 5 quarterback in a clean pocket and against the blitz, right? This guy was the #1 quarterback in fantasy and all things last year and coming into this year. The stats were there, Stephon Diggs, we love it. But he has not been great in his first 2 matchups against the Steelers team that we know maybe is on their last leg with Ben Roethlisberger and against Miami without a Tua Tagovailoa. So, I'm just not convinced just yet. Julie mentioned that Washington is on a rest advantage. They have the best defensive line in the NFL right now. So I'll take the points. I'm not too worried about them. And again, the teaser point that Julie made, I think is great. I think getting it below that key number 7 is fantastic. But right now for this segment, I'm going to take the points Washington football team.
All right, let's talk about some game totals. This one's a pretty high one. Cardinals, Jaguars, total set at 52. So the Cardinals in week 1 versus the Titans combined 51 points. Week 2 versus the Vikings combined 67 points. As we know, the Jags fell 37-21 in week 1 to the Texans. So that one was kind of a shootout. But then they lost 23-13 to the Broncos.
Yeah.
What a stinker.
Yeah, keep it up. Keep it up.
Steve, so do we think these two teams can get to 52?
I'll tell you one thing that I've noticed about the Cardinals so far this season. They don't care about the other team's families. They're just going to continue to put up points every single week, regardless what the score is. No regard for how anybody's feelings. And I love that. I also would say, even though the Jaguars lost that game, didn't put up a lot of points, I liked what I saw a lot more in week 2 than what I saw in week 1. To be fair, the bar was not set very high in week 1. But the Cardinals' offense is fast. They are dynamic. Kyler Murray, already an early MVP candidate in my eyes. He's just looked absolutely fantastic. I like the over on this total, but this would not be a game that I'd be willing to bet the under on, even if what's that at 51.5 currently. The total has gone up and down a couple times already, but kind of staying in that range. I'd be going with the over in this one. And I really think a lot of it is because the Cardinals will just pour on the offense all throughout the game. We saw that connection early with Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins. Quick 4 catches for him and the touchdown. Like, that rapport just can't be matched. And really, the secondary for the Jaguars have nothing they can do to stop DeAndre Hopkins and a re-emerging Christian Kirk, as we saw in week 2. So I think there's a lot to like about this game. I would feel better about taking the over on the Cardinals team total, but I do like the over in this game as well.
All right. What do we think here, Reed? How do we feel about this 52 number? Do you have enough faith in the Cardinals that you want to take the over?
Yeah, and as much faith in the Jaguars defense and the Arizona Cardinals defense, their secondary, also giving up points late. Look, their secondary is not great. The DBs allowed over 11 yards per completion to the Minnesota Vikings. And I get it. Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, even Kirk Cousins, a lot better trio right now, Emerson, don't worry, than Trevor Lawrence. We saw some nice passes from Lawrence and hooking up with Marv Jones, but The Jags can't stop anyone, and the secondary too, and that's why I liked the over last week in that Minnesota-Arizona game. The secondary for Arizona is not great. They're going to give up points, and so the 52 is definitely in play here because of what we've seen, the proclivity of the Jacksonville Jaguars to pass 60 times and not give James Robinson the ball at all. So I definitely like the over here.
You like the over, Jules?
I do. That was one of the longest answers I've ever heard Steve Buchanan give on this show, and it came for a Cardinals-Jaguars over-under. I didn't see that coming, but I liked Steve's last point a lot. It was Steve. I liked Steve's last point a lot, that he likes Arizona's team total here. Jacksonville is going to get points. It's going to find its way to get points, and against Arizona, maybe Chandler Jones does get in there for another big game when it comes to sacks like he did in week 1 against a really bad Jacksonville O-line. That Arizona will find its points. 38 against the Titans, 34 against the Vikings. I think that just playing the Arizona team total is the safer side of this one.
All right, guys, we got a couple minutes left in the show. This is our last one here. Chargers-Chiefs total. It's at 55, second highest total in week 3, behind only the Bucs and the Rams. Reed, too high or too low?
Yeah, I think this is too high. I get it. Like, the Chiefs can put up a lot of points. We saw them put up a ton of points on primetime. I think this is why this number is inflated. These two teams met last season, week 17. Kansas City sat all of their starters. That game went over. And week 2, this is Justin Herbert's coming out party, week 2 against the Chiefs. That went under. Look, the Chargers, I'm more worried about this Chargers side. If we're talking about team totals, I definitely like Kansas City side. But the Chargers, over the last 2 games, by a total of 27.5 points, have gone under the overall totals. So I just don't have a lot of faith right now in them putting this over, and especially in a division matchup, I think this stays under.
Yeah, Steve, Chargers offense been a little slow coming out of the gate. How much confidence do you have in the over?
I mean, the public has a lot of confidence because this has gone up 2 points already since last week. I don't know what they're seeing, because the problem is, like Reed just said, it's not the Chiefs side I'm worried about. They're already 2-0 on the over and have done so by an average of 12.2 points. It's the Chargers side that I'm worried about. They're 0-2 on the over so far this year and have missed by an average of 13.8 points. 13.8. And quite frankly, it's not even the worst in the league, which is just a whole nother story in itself. But you have some legitimate concerns about the Chargers here. And it's, Justin Herbert throws a beautiful ball, absolutely beautiful ball. But it just hasn't been going their way. They've been getting intercepted. They haven't been hitting their receivers. They're just taking a ton of points off the board themselves with penalties. They actually probably would have been 2-0 with the over if they stopped making all these penalties on themselves. But that's a legitimate concern here with the Chiefs. Obviously, they're going to have to throw a lot in this game to keep up with that team. But if that total continues to rise like it is, and it's currently at 55.5, I don't feel good about the over. If this starts to come down a little bit, then maybe I'm up to change my mind. But at 55.5, I just think it's too high right now.
Jules, you have 30 seconds to answer.
Less.
Rambo Buchanan over here. The Chargers have gone under in 6 of their last 8, but they have gone over in 10 of their last 13 on the road and 4 of their last 5 on the road against Kansas City. I think the Chargers are due to put some points on the board, and that Kansas City defense is bad. This one actually finds its way over.
All right, that's a show. Tune into the
Rambo
MLB version of the
Buchanan.
slate at 5 p.m. with Glash,
like loose
Bukes, and
lips
Garion.
Lotzia.
Be quiet. And we got
Sorry.
a full slate of Madden Sims coming up. See you tomorrow at 11 a.m. God,
Okay,
I hate it
thank
here.
you.